we will kick it off officially. So, hi everyone, for all of you joining for the first time, I just want to give some very short context about this interview series we are doing here at Radiant, the Masters of Search Talks. This is not just another podcast, but an exclusive series of talks, invite only, where we host interesting guests from the search marketing space. Topics will range from SEO to paid search and AI search, obviously. We will kick off the interview today with David, and after that go into Q&A, so everyone has the chance to get the questions answered. Please mute yourself for now if you haven't done it already. And if you have a question along the way, just click on the dots in the right bottom corner of your screen, then on Q&A, and enter your question so nothing gets lost. In the end, in the Q&A, you can also unmute yourself and explain your question if you like, or we can have a little bit of a discussion. So without further ado, I'm super happy to introduce today's guest, David Konitzny. He spent a lot of time decoding AI search. On LinkedIn, I wrote 100+ hours. I think this is widely underestimated. I think it's probably a lot more. So he can help us better understand how it works and how we can optimize for it. So David, some people joining us today will probably know you, but for the rest of us, who are you and where do you work?
Yes, for sure. So my name, David, or actually David, to be honest, but it's always too stressful to say it. I'm the product owner of organic search at KKP. So mainly my job is nowadays to make the sync between the operative teams and the sales team and providing our customers the best service. So looking at what do we offer, what should we offer in the future. Nowadays, of course, AI search, but also far more things like what products suits our customers the best, and basically how to be more visible. That's also why you see me more often now on LinkedIn, of course.
Really cool. Yeah, I have seen you on LinkedIn quite a bit lately. Probably also people in the audience who felt like, hey, if David goes live, I definitely want to join. So at KKP or at Kosch Klink Performance, the whole name, you're focused on the finance sector, right? So banks,
Exactly.
insurances. Maybe you can give us a little bit also of an idea about the focus you have in the agency, just to understand your background and understand the clients you're working with day to day a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. So actually, the whole journey of mine started at Peak Ace, an agency also based in Berlin, where I did the whole SEO game. So how should I do SEO in the future? Then I was going to Raisin, formerly known as Weltspan in Germany, and this is more or less just like an financial institute where you can get overnight monies and so on. And there I spent 5 years at the end as head of organic search, having digital PR, content, and SEO in my teams. And this was then also the case when I said, like, okay, if I do something in the future, I will stick to this sector, financial institutions and insurance. And yeah, actually KKP was more or less also our, back in the days then there, our agency I was working with. And at some point I just said, like, guys, you are so nice and cool. Is there a way to work with you full time, not just as your client? And yeah, that's how I ended up at KKP. And yeah, as you said, focus is insurance and financial institutions and so on. It's actually really nice because back in the days there was always a saying, if you make it in SEO for financial terms like credits and so on, you really know that you are great SEO. Maybe nowadays it's not that thing anymore, but it's a really fun area. It's completely different to e-commerce, where you can really optimize a lot of things, especially technical parts, with the millions of URLs you will have. And insurance and financial institutions is more about informational structures. So how are you known as a brand? Are you connected to those topical authorities? And especially, like, what do you write about it? So there's a ton of things that you can write. And then, of course, AI Overview and all the other LLMs came over and shredded it a bit to pieces, maybe.
Okay, very interesting. Let's dive deeper into that. So last week, I had Malte Landwehr on, who was previously at Idealo and is now CMO at PKI. For everybody watching this on YouTube, I will link the video with Malte at the top here in this corner. But Malte has told us a little bit about the impact of AI overviews and AI search in general on consumer journeys, but also on a lot of websites, obviously, because I think there's at least like the trend of a lot of websites seeing traffic declines, etc. So also a lot of uncertainty in the market. From your insights, obviously you can't share specific client names, but how big is the impact of AI overviews and AI search already for your clients? So maybe you can share some insights around that.
So I think it's already known outside that the decline of clicks is around 20%. So before AI overview, rollout, and afterwards. So of course we do see way more less clicks than beforehand. Regarding like ChatGPT, Gemini traffic, and so on, it's still around maybe 1% of the whole traffic you can see in Google Analytics, at least there. So I wouldn't say those LLMs are right now really something you need to look in. Of course, like back in the days with SEO, nobody looked at it. And then Ideal actually came around the corner in Germany as an example and made it really big. But still, it's too small maybe to invest a lot of money right now, especially for banks or insurance, where you really need to figure out or think about what are you actually doing? Do you spend everything with the paid channels? Do you spend everything with out-of-home campaigns or actually SEO? And I think it's not a lie that nobody wants to spend money on SEO. And maybe nowadays it's a bit nicer for SEO teams, but it's still a big issue there. And so, yeah, AI overview is actually the biggest issue right now. I wouldn't say issue right now, but it has an impact, especially as I said beforehand, a lot of informational content is created, is out there, and you don't need to have it anymore, or you are actually creating it. It doesn't make any difference anymore because the clicks are not there anymore. As I said, 20% less clicks. But one thing that nobody's really looking at, it's not, and this is also what we always tell our customers and everybody who wants to join us, who wants to work with us as a client, we are not simply looking at clicks or impressions. Every company has KPIs, like leads, newsletter signups, anything like this. And this should be in the future way more important than clicks or impressions, because we see it with some clients. Yes, they lost a lot of traffic, but there's no decline in SEO leads. So KPIs still the same. So I have to give it to Google when they say like your lead or your traffic has more quality. Maybe yes, because you don't really see this with the KPIs going down. But of course, if you are always reporting clicks and your boss is always just looking at the clicks, it's hard to say it's still bringing some value in it. So one of the learnings already, keep an eye on your business KPIs and not just the clicks maybe.
Yeah, I can second that. So we have clients where traffic is actually in decline. We also have clients where traffic is actually still growing. So obviously we have somehow created something more future-proof there. But we have one client, for example, where the traffic has, I'm not quite sure, let's say it has declined 30 to 40%, but leads have actually grown or stayed stable. So this is something you wouldn't expect, because usually you have always used clicks as a proxy for success. And if you said, like, I mean, the exchange rate was a variable, like, do I need 10 clicks or do I need 20 clicks for one conversion? But this exchange rate completely changes, so we have to recalculate that.
And I think there's a difference. So if you are looking at domains that are already well established, of course, you don't see such a growth anymore in clicks, because let's say you have like 10,000 clicks per day, then you will have a decline of 2K and end up with 8,000 clicks per day, and that's it. But if you are still a growing domain, you will see, even nowadays, still a growth impact. So all those LinkedIn posts sharing like, oh, it doesn't matter, AI overviews are there, but we still see a growth. Yes, of course, because you're still creating content, you're still getting some clicks that are not there beforehand. But if you reached a certain level, it's harder to get the clicks. And I think Marta was it actually who said last time, we saw the peak of traffic or organic traffic last year, maybe at the beginning of 2025. And this is now the normal, but it shouldn't be, we shouldn't be afraid of this, because there's more to report than just clicks.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a key differentiation between what Malte said for the whole market in terms of peak traffic, this does not necessarily mean that you will have peak traffic as an individual domain. Because if your market is, if you have like 1 to 2% market share, you can still, I mean, sounds hard maybe, but you can still eat in the market share of your competitors, although the whole pie gets a little bit smaller. But if the whole pie gets smaller, you just have to take a bigger bite.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing is, of course, with AI mode coming around the corner, what will happen if Google set up AI mode as a default? But this is something for the future, maybe.
Yeah, let's keep this question. We should come back to that, but maybe we have already covered this a little bit, and I would like to get your take on Google versus LLMs for a second, because I see basically people telling me, yeah, no, I don't trust the answers from ChatGPT. It's all fluff, whatever. And then on the other hand, we have hardcore ChatGPT users who say, hey, I have basically, like, as Malte said with his, I think, South Korea trip, where he forced himself to use ChatGPT for 2 weeks straight without using Google anymore. So it seems to me like a lot of people talk about Google like it will be the next MySpace. What's your perspective here?
I think it's clear that Google still has the biggest market share of all those tools out there, or all those engines. So it will be clearly out. And I think it's nice for Google to finally have some competition that they can take on, and they need to evolve. So this is by far the best thing right now for all of us. Google never had to evolve because there was nobody out there, maybe Bing or so on, but who cares about it, at least from Google's perspective. But now with especially ChatGPT, they need to do something. You see this, we have so many features and changes. We didn't have this in years, maybe slight changes in the SERPs, visual things, but nobody beside us SEOs cared really about this. As I said, like still, not so many people are using ChatGPT. Of course, as everybody's seeing this number and it's growing, but we are really in a bubble here right now. If I go to some friends, maybe to my parents, they never heard about it. They would never actually use it. So it will still take some years probably until it becomes a part of society that you're also using ChatGPT. For especially younger people, I still try to count me as a young person. Some friends of mine, they are starting to use ChatGPT when we are looking up for something. They are not Googling it still. Googling also something that just happened because of Google, a word. But still, I doubt that ChatGPT will by now be something where you need to focus 100%. It's more this AI search as a whole. So really thinking about what is happening outside there, and be ready for it, especially because there are a lot of online marketing teams in all those companies right now who have the biggest chance right now, finally to think, finally to start talking to each other, SEO with brand, with PR, with affiliate teams and so on, to really create a strategy that is fulfilling and also wholesome for the whole company. Because that's actually what all those LLMs are doing. They're just scraping and crawling the whole web. It's like a big library, and there's a ton of information. And everything that's out there, at least written, not as an out-of-home campaign and so on, can be used as information. It doesn't matter if it's your domain, if it's a competitor domain writing about you, if those are Reddit forums or reviews about your product. You need to keep now everything in line to make yourself better and more visible in those things. So yes, try to align finally the whole marketing team. And I'm always saying this, make this happen, talk to each other, try really to create a strategy that is like, I think Fitkin was it who said like search is everywhere. So really do this also, finally think about this. And for Google, as I said, they are coming up with so many things. So ditching Google or saying Google is the next MySpace, I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, I find this perspective super valuable because I sometimes see people taking too much of this, let's say, anecdotal evidence. So they have a few friends, or at least we in our bubble, we feel like, hey, I'm using ChatGPT a lot. So obviously I, for example, I'm using Claude a lot in my daily work. It helps me with all kinds of stuff, from coding to brainstorming, to structuring stuff, to content writing. But you shouldn't extrapolate from that to like the whole population, because I mean there is a reason why a lot of people were still using Internet Explorer up until it was discontinued. And it's a matter of differentiating between first movers and then, I don't know the exact terms, like this is all different, the first movers and then the next cohort and then basically the big mass. So I'm not saying that ChatGPT is not relevant. It's super relevant and the growth is crazy, but we just have to keep an eye on how many users are really adapting it, for which use cases, etc. So you have already mentioned AI mode, and I find this really interesting because it feels to me, so maybe for everybody that does not have a picture in mind about AI mode, you can just quickly give us an idea about what this might look like and what AI mode will be from Google, and maybe also how you think this will turn out. So do you think this will be the default and the only available search option in Google in the future, or is there maybe a more nuanced picture?
To be honest, I think it will become the default search function of Google. It's still too early, of course, to say it, and I can't predict it, but everything is clearly speaking for it. So actually, maybe there's a post coming out today from a certain person who is writing about this, but what you can see already in AI mode is that you have Google Maps included in there, you have Google Shopping included there. So the whole journey is already covered. You have follow-up suggestions, so answer questions that you can ask, which are not connected to people also ask, or the suggestions when you type in something in the search bar. So it's completely disconnected to this part. And it's summarized really nicely. So one thing I said earlier, Google, at least from my perspective, always had this big issue, the layout of the SERPs. They always looked ugly. So back in the days, it was just a list, still a list with a lot of clickable elements. And now you are just asking something and you get really nice mail, more or less, with some features where you can click on, sometimes also in bold in the content, certain domains that are just highlighted, which are more or less in the future the new organic results. So instead of 10, just 3, maybe sources that are highlighted. And yeah, I would say this can become the default. I'm not sure how it's with Google regarding the energy that it costs and how well it's for our environment. Of course, you could argue, well, they will never change this, but also Google is just a company who wants to earn money. And if they lose customers, they will do everything to keep them at the company again or with the product. The only thing that is still missing are ads. So once those ads are also in AI mode, I'm pretty sure they will change it to the default mode. I mean, they have already used so many pop-ups. Back in the days, they always told us never use pop-ups because it's bad for your search results. Now Google is doing actually exactly the same, using pop-ups to say like, oh, use AI mode, click on AI mode, use the functionality is the best thing. And actually, there is a saying: if you want to hide a dead body, place it on number 2 of the SERPs. And I think in the future it will be just the normal search. So the organic search, place it in there, and you will never find it again. So basically, people will use AI mode. The only thing is, of course, as we said, how do people use it in the future? So we are really trained to Google in the correct way. 1 term, 2 terms, really precise. You don't have to be so precise anymore. You can type in whatever you want, and you get a really well-written answer. So I think what will happen is we will get educated again by Google. And it will take, again, maybe 10 years until people really finally understand how to write something. As with Google, I mean, everybody knows it. If you type in something, sometimes you're not finding the results that you want, and you have to retype it, especially as us SEOs. I think we are handicapped anyways because we know those terms, we know the search volume behind it, we don't trust the web anyways. So we can't Google as a normal person. But with the prompts or like with a different way of searching and writing stuff, there will be a change. And I think also Google and all those other tools will provide us in the future with a more or less search volume of prompts. This will happen. I mean, this also happened with Google in the beginning. Also, they didn't give you away how many people are looking for credit cards. And now you have those numbers. And this will also happen with our questions in AI mode. for sure.
Very, very interesting. Maybe one addition to the energy question, because I saw this YouTube short a few days ago. It was from 2019, but I think it has aged quite well. There it said that the Earth gets more solar energy in 1 hour than the entire world uses in a year. So obviously the energy consumption has risen significantly, but let's say then we need 2 hours of solar energy. But I think if these big tech companies would max out solar capacity, we would have less of a problem with the energy consumption. But everything that we're talking about, like the AI search, etc., is based on these engines. So let's say the search engine in the past, Google, or then the AI generative engines, basically crawling the web and discovering content and discovering education and providing it in a format that is fundamentally different to what we used prior to November 2022. And I noticed you've been analyzing how different sites are blocking AI crawlers now through the robots.txt. So robots.txt, basically a little file that you put on your website where you can say, hey, crawler, I don't want you, go away. Or, hey, crawler, you can come in. It's fine. You can look at my content. And you mentioned that Tagesschau, so everybody who's not German in the audience, it's a big public German media format from the main public channel, blocks LLMs. But ChatGPT then automatically redirects to alternative sources. I think you had this example with Tagesschau, and then Deutsche Welle or someone else was recommended. So what's your take on that? Should publishers be blocking AI crawlers if they feel like their intellectual property is misused? Or is it something where in the end, you only help your competitors?
Tricky question. I also got a couple of replies to this post, and I would say I totally understand why publishers are blocking it. And nowadays, those whole fake news are all over the place. And for example, ChatGPT, of course you can't trust that it will 100% give you the correct answer. And we do see this, especially if you have one chat and you type in one question after the others and one action point after the others. At some point, ChatGPT is not giving you the correct answers anymore. So you can convince it that 1 + 1 will be 5 and not 2 at some point. This is just this thing called loss in conversation, that at some point the AI doesn't know anymore what they should do. So with this in mind, yeah, 100% maybe don't share this, or don't let or block actually the AIs to basically protect humanity in a certain case. Because outside, imagine you're just looking for the current news and there is something written about a world war and you're panicking, and it's just the AI rewriting something completely wrong because it was a joke in the content, but it didn't get the joke at some point. So this could of course happen. Do I recommend to do this for the eternity, for all the time? No, because certain players are not doing this. As you said, Deutsche Welle, for example, actually they try to do this, and I will say this in a sentence, but if you're not doing this, you will be still there. So meaning you are just taking your piece out of this whole game, and at some point you will be not visible. More or less like you would say, like, I put all my landing pages on no index, so it will be not indexed and not visible in the search anymore because I don't trust Google. Yeah, you can do this, but then you are not there anymore and people will not see you, and then you are out of the game. It's more this thing of like challenging also those LLMs and all those tools, like what should we do? So what is the new world? Cloudflare, for example, said, okay, you can crawl, but you need to pay for it. A clever way, because all those publishers are of course losing money. I mean, if I can use ChatGPT to summarize the news, why should I go in a certain domain anymore and check the news there? I can use ChatGPT, and this is crawling it. So yeah, the publishers, especially publishers, need to rethink this whole game. But I think with big company Cloudflare in the background, they can do this. With the robots.txt and using it, the one difference here is a lot of domains that I checked are not using all or not blocking all the chatbots. So, and this is, I think Kevin Inding said it a few days ago that we still don't know how many bots are out there. So what you need to do is either have a list that you need to update every week, every month. You need to check your log files, which bot is now there. You need to trust Cloudflare, that Cloudflare is showing you all the bots that they can find that you can block. But they usually, so all the domains that I checked just blocked GPT. GPT is just one of, I think, 4 or 5 bots that OpenAI is using. And there was only one domain who was actually blocking all of them, and it worked. And if you just miss one, then of course you can be crawled. But the difference here is ChatGPT is not crawling always your domain. So it's crawling your domain if, for example, it will just fill up their training data. And this is for news, especially for news, it's not relevant because every day, every hour, every minute, there's new news out there. So of course it will be not crawled. And what is actually doing is crawling, of course, the SERPs. Bing or maybe Google. So if we are talking about ChatGPT, we are still not, we don't still not know if this is now true with Google crawling. But what it's actually doing is just crawling the SERPs. And here's this game. If you are in the SERPs, ChatGPT can crawl you. It's just taking the snippets, so 1 or 2 sentences out of the title and description. That's it. They don't need to crawl your whole domain, actually. So you're still somehow crawled at the end. So yeah, blocking all those LLMs, maybe it's a solution. I wouldn't recommend it for the future. For now, maybe, but it's always the same thing. Do you really, or are you really willing to take yourself out of the game? In the beginning of the whole AI topic, there were big companies also in Germany who said we don't want to be crawled, so we are blocking everything. I wouldn't do this. If you do this, then you're just taking yourself, as I said, out of the game, and this is not wise. You will lose at the end because this is now not something new and shiny that is leaving again. This is the new reality we are in, and we need to understand this.
Mm. Very interesting. You have already mentioned a topic that I think is very relevant. So, for example, asking ChatGPT for the news, because there are fundamentally different use cases where you can use an AI search or like an AI chatbot. So one would be explain solar energy or photovoltaics to me like I'm a 5-year-old, like things that can be answered from the foundational knowledge, and then other stuff. So maybe everybody in the audience has already noticed that sometimes ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini answer stuff just based on their knowledge, and sometimes they perform a live search. So maybe you can, because I know that you have spent quite some time on that, maybe you can, as a first, help us understand a little bit more of the differences. When does an AI chatbot perform a live search, and when does it answer something based on its foundational knowledge?
Mm-hmm. To understand this, you need to understand that actually I think November last year was the first time when ChatGPT also mentioned some sources. So all of a sudden you saw what or where ChatGPT was, for example, crawling or getting the information. This was also not the thing back then because it was still trained on those fundamental information. So basically, what is the capital city of Germany? This is something this will not change so often. You don't need to crawl thousands of websites and Wikipedia every day to get this information. This is just a fact. This stays with it. Especially when you're looking for topics like news things 2025. Back then, you always had the issue. So when you are one of the people who used it in the beginning, then it was always telling you like, yeah, I don't have the information because I have information from 2023 or till 2023, and it was the end of 2024, for example, when you requested something. This now changed completely with web search. So whenever you are asking something and the engine in the background doesn't get the information, it will just start a web search. And then it's actually kind of interesting what it's actually doing, because what is happening? So I type in best product, let's say best toothbrush on the market, and where can I buy it? And all of a sudden you see on the left corner, web search is activated, and I'm looking for something. But where? What? See, I know that it's using an engine, let's say Bing instead of Google, because I still believe it's Bing when we are talking with OpenAI here. What is it typing in? Is it actually typing in something? Where does it get the information? And how can I actually believe that ChatGPT is doing the stuff, or is it just like something written and actually it's still taking the information from the backend? So basically, when it's how it starts to do a web search is really if you want to get news information, right now stuff, for example, or like comparisons and so on, where it needs to get more and more information. And if you're just let's say you want to crack a code, you are just using an HTML and say, could you please read the fundamental thing out of this HTML? Of course, there's no web search because the code knows what to do and doesn't need to do this. But if I'm asking like, what happened yesterday to David Beckham, probably there will be a web search in the background because the engine doesn't know what the daily life of David Beckham looks like.
Very interesting. I also heard this from Malte last week. I think it makes sense that we have to understand that for the LLM or for like the AI chatbot provider, a web search takes more resources. So it increases the latency. So it, in simple words, it takes longer to provide the answer. So the AI chatbot basically has a bias towards answering based on the foundational knowledge, and only based on certain criteria you have outlined some, it performs a web search. Now, I can imagine that a lot of people understand this principle, but they have a hard time understanding and really picturing in their mind how does the LLM search. So does it just enter one query on Bing or on Google, or does it like how does this work? How is an LLM or an AI chatbot actually searching? And is it possible for us to see this?
It is actually. So in the last couple of weeks, so everything is changing right now. Everybody's wild west out there. Everybody's finding something. And I think Jerome is his name. He was the first person who found a way to see when ChatGPT, for example, is doing a web search, what keywords or queries it is using, where to find it, and also created a bookmarklet out of this, where you can actually always check, okay, which queries are used to in the background. Again, here, we are not 100% sure if this is really the thing. So this is like this whole fan out. I'm asking a question and several queries in the back end are fired to get my answers. Basically, all the URLs it can find. So at the end, somebody who's doing for you a live research on the web here at Bing, and then just handing you over all the keywords or all the URLs that it could find. So basically like an SEO trainee, every agency have, please do a keyword research for me and send me all the top 10 domains. So this is actually happening. You can see this in the code, and I can show it in a few minutes actually, how to do this if you want. And you can also see this with Perplexity and with Gemini. So all three of them, you can see when a web search is activated, that in the background, there are queries fired. And out of those results, URLs are taken, and they are used to create your answer.
Yeah, very cool. I think it would be super interesting to dive into this. So maybe if you mind, you could just share your screen. And I think you have actually taken this bookmarklet and even developed it a little bit further so that you also have some additional features. Let's not spoil this already. So let's keep it. But yeah, let's dive right in.
Sure, I will share my screen. And of course, I prepared something because you're never sure if this is then working or if my connection is really bad at the moment. So I try to do something in English for the audience. My apology actually didn't work out because whenever I type in something nowadays in ChatGPT, because it's so used to me writing German, of course, it still gives me the answer in German. So that's why I said, okay, I stay with the whole German sentence here. So what I basically did, and I will basically translate it for you, is I asked the ChatGPT, what is the best toothbrush and where can I actually buy it? And then I get a typical result that you will also get in English, actually, with some product elements in the middle. So this is also a new feature since a couple of weeks now, that you get those product elements. When I click on it, I will be sending out to the domain, and you get all the information here. And now there's a way, if you open the dev tools, you can, on the top here, I hope it's big enough for everybody, click
Yeah.
on network. And when you have the network open, you just need to look up for your ID in the chat and search for this ID in the chat here in the names. And once you find it, I opened it already, you have basically the whole code, how OpenAI or ChatGPT in this case is, or what it's doing in the background to give you all the answers that you need. And to go a bit through this, I will show you here right now what is happening. So first of all, whenever you do something in ChatGPT, and this is for all the LLMs, it checks what you provided as an information. So let's say I said my name is, and you have this actually here, my name is David, my role is product owner organic search, just that I want to be specific in this term. And then I said, please be always well-educated, professional, don't be polite. I actually changed this now today also a bit, and now I get like a really formal "Hello, David. How's your day?" And then at the end, always sincerely ChatGPT, which is kind of funny. So this is also changing the whole way ChatGPT is working or talking to you, which is a different conversation here right now. But you see here my question I ask in the code. And now it gets a bit more interesting, because whenever I put something in, a search is activated. And this is not a search term. It's just telling ChatGPT right now, this is a search. You need to do something with this. And it actually breaks down the whole part. If I scroll down, and I don't want to spoil it here, this is better. It breaks down the search for you. So what you see here right now is best electric toothbrush 2025 reviews and best manual toothbrush reviews 2025. This is actually right now in English. I typed it in German, but ChatGPT is still doing the research in English for me. Up until today, I can't give you the clear number when it's German, when it's English. It always changes all on the top. I said I had the issue to replicate this in English, but still the queries are in English here right now. And also the sources, to be honest. If I scroll down, because this is the juicy part here, you see here all the sources it was taken out of those queries. And as you see, it's in English. So what the engine is actually doing, I'm as a German typing in something in German, based in Germany, my VPN is in German, and still it's doing the research for me in English, based on English domains, and basically just translating everything in the background for me. So you can also say now, if you want to optimize for it, let's say everybody now in the audience saying, great, I use this now, I use those keywords, and I will optimize, and I will be shown there. It might be also that you need to translate now all your URLs in English, so that it also pops up as an English result in the SERPs. I wouldn't recommend this. I mean, there's a lot of resources you should invest into this. Not sure if this is really the case where or how you can optimize this, especially if you are in the e-commerce. So transactional keywords are also important for you, because those this is what I showed, and I think I can spoil it now. What I also created or what I found, those are just informational queries. Of course, they are information because you're looking for reviews, but there are also product queries in it. And that's why I scrolled down a bit faster. Here you saw actually right now product query. So what is happening in the background is the engine is changing between informational queries and product queries. The product queries here are electric toothbrush, manual toothbrush. This doesn't show up here in this feature anymore, in this code here anymore. And there's also a feature from Surfer where you can, don't click on this right now because I don't want to get any issues here right now, but it also just shows you those queries, those informational queries. So there are also product queries. And again, here you could optimize for those product queries. Do I recommend this? I don't know. There is no case right now where it shows that it makes sense to optimize for this, especially when I type this request again, I get different queries right now. So the next time it could be just best electric toothbrush 2025 reviews, and not the manual toothbrush anymore. So this is also always changing. It's basically like somebody, or if you have a whole group of people, and every day somebody else is checking something for you, and the queries are different. So what I did, knowing this part, I used the template, everybody is by now familiar. So whenever you see something like this, it's not an original bookmarklet anymore. Jerome and Ziggy, they created in the beginning this bookmarklet. You will always see this by this nice design here. And whenever you see this, make sure to say thank you to Jerome and Ziggy who created it, because everybody is using this template. But what I was doing is more or less adding certain parts into this. In the beginning, you see summary and inner dialogue. This is always also in the code visible. So the summary is basically ChatGPT telling himself again, you need to produce a best list of all the toothbrushes out there. So this is always like taking again what you asked and summarizing it again. And then you have this inner dialogue. And this is really interesting because there you see like a human being who would now think, okay, what should I do? And this is exactly what is writing to us. So you can learn so much things out of this. I think nobody's actually doing this right now. Would be an interesting topic. So it's basically saying, okay, now I need to figure out what are the best toothbrushes, where can I buy it? I need to check for products, which option I have there. At the end, I will also look at some reviews, and nice part here, I will add a carousel at the end for the product, so that the person who's looking up for something, and you saw this earlier, this part here, I will add this as well to the answer, so the user gets all the best information. And with this bookmarklet right now, as I said, you have the search queries, you have the product queries, and you have search hint results. Those are actually really interesting because just for product queries, so far could find it, what is happening in the background is that you get all those reviews and all the information, and ChatGPT is using the product names, as you can see here. Let's say, here, this Oral-B, Click, Handzahnbürste, Chrome, Schwarz, number. And ChatGPT is then creating again a request to ChatGPT in this code, as you can see here. And it by default, it activates actually a web search. And I can show you right now what is happening. You see here, it's basically asking himself again, this is the product. What can I find if I activate a web search? And then all of a sudden, he's typing in everything. So where to buy it, what is the price, is there a review, some stars, like 4 out of 5 stars, and so on. Interesting enough, those information, so those sources you will be seeing here right now, are not in the original code. So basically, this is also what I call the hidden layer of product searches. This is really this hidden layer. If you really want to understand how your product or how any product is searched, you need to go through this whole journey to see, okay, what is the second request from ChatGPT to ChatGPT, and what informations are there. And you can actually optimize then again for stuff you can find here. But again, here you see Amazon, eBay, Target. So if you're not Amazon, eBay, or Target, probably no chance to be in here. And you can find this all with this plugin. I think you will share it later again. I called it ChatGPT Product Intent Parser. I'm not the best person by naming stuff, but you find here everything, how it works. And what you need to do at the end is just take this code here, just copy it. This easy going. You then create a bookmark. So right click and adding some stuff.
We can't see it because I think you've just shared the window instead of the whole screen. Maybe just switch it a little bit, because otherwise I would have said that everybody is probably blown away by this and the insights and like the options just to play around with it. But we have to ensure that people know how to install this to actually benefit from it.
Now you can see it, right?
Yeah, I think maybe it's a little bit small, but for everybody that feels like this is too small for you currently to see, no worries. We will have a recording. I will, so either you already subscribe to this channel on YouTube. If not, just write me on LinkedIn. I will send it over to you, and then you can basically like zoom in. And probably David is also very helpful in installing it with you if you don't have if you don't have the technical capabilities. But just please still show it, even though it's small.
Yeah, of course. So for everybody watching now the recording, stop, start again. Right click. So you copy paste the code here. Right click on your bar here. So basically anything that you have here. Right click. Add, here's in German, but add a new page. It's written in English here. And then this funny stuff is popping up. What you're just doing is what you copy pasted, adding it here. Then you place a name, you save everything, and this will be your bookmarker. And then whenever you trigger basically a web search request, so like this part here, you will always figure this out because a web search symbol is on the top when it's activating and you see some sources. You basically just need to click on the bookmarklet, and of course nothing's, oh, something is happening, right? And as you see, the bookmarklet is starting is of course the same as we saw here. And with this bookmarklet, you get then your search queries, your product queries, and those hidden search hint URLs that give you a deep understanding of the next level of products. So yeah, try it out. If it's too fast and if you couldn't follow up the recording, ping me on LinkedIn. I can show it to you again, but it's actually really simple, and actually it's always working. This site, maybe, Niklas, we figured out yesterday maybe a certain thing that if you have a paid account, so actually I don't have a paid account, but if you have a paid account with ChatGPT, it's probably not working. So we figured out yesterday, actually, when we had a nice call, that somehow in your paid account, there are no queries in the code. We did it several times. We tried to figure out several topics and so on, but there was never a search query activated, even though you could see web search activated and you could see the sources, but there were no queries. It's also an interesting topic to analyze in the future. Why, actually? So maybe because you are paying, there's more information from OpenAI in the background, and if you're not paying, you get the simple web search. So second level users, so to say, and the first level users get the juicy part. I have no idea. I can't explain why this is the case, and maybe it was just yesterday and today it's working again. Could be also the case.
Cool. Yeah, so David, this was super interesting. I think this is also very much of like an in-depth view into how, I think you put this nicely with the layer analogy. So basically, if you look at, so if you think about yourself searching on Google for something, maybe now or in the past, and if you then compare it to this, where you have this like query fan, also basically all sorts of different queries that are searched, and then you have a synthesis of these different types of information, etc. Although I find, for example, from a user perspective, it doesn't make any sense to me that it's searching US links if you're obviously a user in Germany, because this, like from a perspective of I want to provide the best user experience, I can't provide the best user experience if I'm citing a New York Post article about some toothbrushes, because in the US you might have completely different models and certifications and whatever. Although obviously people are also brushing their teeth there. But like from your perspective, who spends a lot of time on that, what would you recommend people to do with this? So do you just think like it's playing around, understanding it, experimenting, just like being in this discovery, like that we are all in, or like what would you recommend to do?
I would totally recommend to use those findings that are shared, and like especially this bookmarklets, doesn't mean mine, but also different ones, to get an understanding of what the AIs are doing in the background, because something is happening there, and you shouldn't block this information or say like, well, I'm not interested in this. It gives you a different, again, additional layer to what is happening there. If you can directly use this to optimize something, as we said, English queries, hardly to optimize if you have a completely German domain, but at least you get the topical cluster, so to say. So in SEO, what you're always doing is if you have a topic, what you're checking is next level queries. So let's say credit cards. What is a credit card? Is this the same cluster? Usually what you did back in the days was always like, use the incognito mode, even though it's hard to do sometimes, but use the incognito mode, type in two different queries and check the results. Are the query, are the domains or the URLs in the SERPs the same for both of the queries? Okay, probably the same cluster. Are they completely different? Probably Google or Bing, doesn't matter, is seeing different clusters here and basically tells you you need two kind of landing pages to answer those two queries. And this is what is also now happening, just additional queries. And doesn't mean right now that what we see is now this fan out stuff where you have one big cluster, because when I analyzed those key results, for example, two things were pretty interesting. One, the search volume behind this is usually 0, 10, or 20. So nobody is looking for stuff like this apparently. And when I check the URLs and the SERPs, they're sometimes completely different. So what is happening here is really how everybody is claiming what is happening. You have an agent in the background who's doing several queries for you. So you are not just like now stuck with one result. You write something down, you get one reply of the domains. You get several layers, and doesn't mean that this is not a perfect cluster at the end, and you need to optimize one page for all those keywords. Can still be that you need to create several pages to fulfill the whole journey, but those are relevant terms for you. And maybe not those that you saw right now, because as I said, do this several times. So I'm doing actually right now with current news a test where I check what queries are shown in the backend. And usually, yeah, current news is still in English for still the term that is used, sometimes in German aktuelle Nachrichten. And then on the second and third position, you have sometimes the month, sometimes the year. But in this way, when you're doing something like this, of course, a lot of investment. And if there's no tool outside what is doing this and you have better things to do, I wouldn't recommend to do this. But you can at least see what queries are always used, what queries are just sometimes used. And then you get one step into this, okay, what should I do now? What should I really optimize for? But please, please, please don't go just wildly into this right now and optimize for certain queries. And then half a year later, you come around the corner and tell me, David, this was great that you said this, because I did everything and now I'm not on the index anymore and Google is kicking me out.
The person who already wrote a question in the Q&A, thanks so much. We will come to that in a minute. I just want to add one more point to the great explanation you did. I think something that was quite interesting for the example you showed is you basically ask for the best toothbrush and where to get it. And the two queries that were used for the informational search were reviews. So, and this is just one example, but to understand how the AI is basically uncovering the intent you have behind a certain prompt you did. So obviously the AI thinks, so to say, in quotes, that if you're looking for the best, it's a good idea to look for reviews, to compile user feedback, and then basically synthesize this into a good response. And if you do this, like maybe if you're in e-commerce, but also if you're not in e-commerce, but if you're in a service business, etc., I would recommend to try to understand what users might be prompting. So you can either ask your users. So I think some key takeaways, if you implement self-reported attribution in your form, so asking users, hey, how did you find us, or how do you know us? And if the users are telling ChatGPT, etc., go ask these specific users what they did. I know it's a little bit messy, but as we say in the startup space, to scale, do things that don't scale. So because it's important to uncover this. Then secondly, if you check your traffic that you get from LLMs to your page, so with GA4, for example, or whatever tool, and then if you take these URLs and just put it into the search console, and then look for longer queries. I mean, this is Google, but still you get an idea of how users are asking stuff and how they're now directed from Google to your page. But this gives you at least another hint on what users might be prompting. And then if you see a web search being activated, then use a bookmark like the one from David or from Jerome or from whoever, and try to understand what the AI thinks about the intent of your prompt. And then I think you're already, like, if you do all this, you're already like in the good percentile of people that try to get ahead of the curve.
And one additional part is talk to your marketing team, because who's writing reviews about you? You're not the one who's writing reviews about you. There are other pages or domains who are writing reviews about you. So get in touch with those pages. Maybe you have affiliate contracts with them, and so on and so on. So we figure out who is out there, who's writing about your company, your product, your service, and try, if you are not well or not great rated out there, try to work on your reputation. I mean, you could have a best product and you are a great company, but somehow people don't like you and your reputation is bad. This is now a signal. This is also shown in all those AIs. And then at the end, best review will be your product is bad, and this will be also not recommended. So marketing teams out there work together.
Yeah, it's a very good advice. I think also very fundamental advice. Thanks so much, David. We will now move over to Q&A. I think that this session was, again, really packed with insights. Super cool. We already have the first question, and I think you will like this question because we had a similar question also last week. So the question is, what is your opinion on LLMs.txt files? Should they be implemented? Please also explain, David, why we are laughing. So nobody is just thinking we're weird people. Should they be implemented, or are they overrated?
So the best part would be to watch the first part of Master of Search, where Martha was giving an answer to this, and I couldn't give a better answer. And we are just laughing because this is now coming up so often. And I actually said that Martha gave the best answer the last time. I just tried to, give an example again here, but really take a look at the first session here right now. So LLM.txts are SEOs and the whole bubble outside, they understood completely incorrect what this thing is doing. This is not a new robots.txt that you are using that AIs will now pass all your landing pages and use this as information. This is not a thing. This is not working. And this is really highly recommended from me, from Malte, from everybody out there. Don't do this. This is not really helping. This is really just for search for those agents in the background. It could be really smart if you have certain parts that you want to prioritize. Here again, look at what Malte said. He is really an expert in this. He can give you a great answer to this point, but don't create those as the new robots.txt and believe that because you created a ticket in your company and the IT team did this, that you can now report that you are more visible in ChatGPT or Gemini. This is not working. This is not the thing why it was created, and there's a whole different level behind this.
Yeah, I think this is a really good answer. Thanks so much for that. I just want to give the audience a little example, because there's actually, so I can actually recommend Googling that topic if you have the question. So this is actually the LLMs.txt.org, and here you can see an example of a file. And I see a lot of people out there actually recommending that you put like your whole blog post into an LLMs.txt or something. That does not make sense. What you can see here is it's an example stripped down. But it basically gives a little bit of a context about this particular project or this website. So it's a Python library which brings together Starlet, UV-Core, whatever. I don't know this. It's far too technical for me. But then you have important notes, like although parts of its API are inspired by whatever is compatible, then some docs. So something like a brief in Markdown for the features, then a brief description of some attributes, an application, and user documentation. And this is something that makes sense. And Malte also said this, so you can basically give a little bit of an indication to an LLM on how to use your website, maybe how to access your API or whatever. But this is probably more something like for the future of the agentic web. And it's not something that SEOs should try to exploit as a new GEO tactic. And yeah, so clear recommendation from David, from Malte, and from me. Don't waste time on this unless you are in this probably 1% of websites that actually benefits from this in terms of API docs and etc.
Yeah.
Cool. So then another question I got beforehand from LinkedIn. I think we somehow strived this a little bit, but I still feel like it's super relevant. Somebody said, how do you come up with ideas for prompts to monitor or check? I'm still having a hard time making the switch from keywords to prompts.
Me as well, to be honest. So there are certain ways nowadays that where you can get at least a hint of this. So what I like to use is the feature from Systrix. They have a feature, it's still a thing out there in the beta version, where you can actually look at every domain or at every topic you want, and then it gives you a suggestion of certain prompts. So prompts that are used in ChatGPT, in Gemini, and in DeepSeek. This is the only information or the only resources that I could recommend right now where you can see this stuff. But still, there is no tool right now that can get all this stuff or all this information. So my setup usually looks like this, that I have Systrix, that I look at these prompts. I know that this might be true. That doesn't need to be true. You don't see there any search volume. So please, if you are out there and you're asking your SEO team, can you get me the search volume for a certain prompt? This is not the case. We don't have this value. We don't know what the search volume is there. I use those prompts. I use then tools like Peak AI, for example. I put those prompts in there, and then at the end, I see the results. And this is really how I check sometimes, okay, is this prompt working? Is a client or sometimes even myself out there as a source? If yes, how can I optimize it? Or actually, if no, how can I optimize it? So this is a way you can do this. I think it's still like too early to dig into this topic because there are no tools for providing the real information. So come up with your own prompts. What I could also suggest is use GSC. See what your people are actually typing in Google and what can you see there, and use those phrases, maybe also the longer phrases, and put them into ChatGPT or Gemini to see what the outcome is. So what is the best product in XYZ, or how can I do XYZ? This is sometimes also something in your GSC files in there. Use it, check it, and this could also be a valuable prompt. As I said in the beginning, people are still educated. People are not prompting as we think, like highly educated, several sentences, best toothbrush. This is also something people can put in and see what is happening out there. So don't try to get too tricky or too clever in this. Stay calm and try to type in whatever you want.
Yeah, I think also a very good answer. I think also Malte said last week he had a sneak peek at a data set of actual prompts, and I think one of the most used prompts, so I hope I get this right, but was just iPhone. So people were just putting an iPhone in ChatGPT, and this is something, so it's still to be determined if people are really like large scale entering these potentially 26 word prompts and phrases in there, and also which intent stands behind it, because there was a cool study of Profound about the intent from 50 million plus ChatGPT prompts, and a big part of these prompts are generative, so meaning, hey, please help me create this and this stuff. So if I think about my average prompt, it's probably way longer than 26 words because I always have a context dump in there. So I probably have, like, from a professional perspective, you know, if you're a person working with it, it's completely different to people doing product discovery, service discovery, trying to understand if which places to visit when they do their weekend trip to Paris. So they might just put in, I want to go to Paris this weekend, what should I do? Like, this might not be very much different to Google. Yeah,
exactly. Malte used it for his vacation, as he said the last time. But how many people like Malte are really doing this to use ChatGPT as a search engine for everything? I doubt that there are so many people right now, at least. This will come for sure, but as you said, I also just use it. I put in some content, please summarize it again or rewrite something. That's how I use ChatGPT. There is no product in behind. There is no search like what is the best toothbrush right now. Those are just examples that I use. And for clients, of course, we are looking into this. But again, here, if I'm looking at the older generation, who are usually really the people many companies are targeting because they have money, they want to invest something, they are probably not using ChatGPT so often. Don't want to blame anybody there or say like, well, old people are not using this, but they are just used to Google. Why should I change now by behavior just because ChatGPT is out there? It doesn't make sense.
Good point. Another question we have is, are frequently asked questions, the so-called FAQs, more important than ever now for AI overviews?
Wouldn't say so. So I couldn't find anything that is now giving me a hint that this is more often used. I mean, you should always use it. It's always something you do in SEO, to use those information to figure out what are people frequently looking at or using. But those informations are not used in any AI I could see. At least I couldn't see this in the code. Doesn't mean it's not working. For example, in AI mode, you see also at the end now certain questions, but as I said, those have nothing to do with frequently asked questions or anything else. They are completely different.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. You also, maybe one question for me, jumping in here, you made this interesting post about something called the folsrch element. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's basically spelled FEFOLSRCH in Google AI overviews.
Yeah.
Can you quickly enlighten us what this is about?
So basically what I've found, people claim that it means follow-up search or something like this. This is how AI overviews are structured in the back end. So you see responses, answers, sources. What you don't see is actually queries that are used. So this fan-out thing, I couldn't figure out how it works for AI overview, but you see basically everything else. The whole skeleton is there, from where the responses are coming, which sources are used. And you see also what should happen if actually the fallback version, so to say. So you sometimes have this, you type in some things, and then on the top you see AI overview couldn't be generated because of an issue. This is also rewritten in the code to make sure that always AI overviews are displayed, which is then a hint for us that Google is actually really looking into having AI overviews everywhere, because it's really written in the code as a fallback version. Please write this if you couldn't generate something. But in short, yeah, it shows you a lot of different source codes and features. I wrote everything about this on LinkedIn in the post. Just check it out. I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you what it really means. I'm just a person who's looking for stuff, writing it on LinkedIn and hoping that a smart person out there is explaining to me what I found, actually.
Yeah. But I think it's the right spirit, right? This is exactly the time to do this and to just go with it along the way. Now, maybe to wrap it up, if you guys in the audience still have a question, please just put it in the Q&A. Otherwise, I still have one, and I think it's quite an obvious one from LinkedIn I got, which is basically, which advice do you give your clients on how to optimize for AI search? Everybody wants to know this.
Yeah, and I think nobody has really the correct answer here right now. My advice is still stay calm, do the stuff that you always did. So SEO is not dying. Yeah, maybe it will be different in the future, but if you still lack traffic, so organic traffic, start with organic traffic, start to build up something before looking up into AI search. And if you're really interested in AI search and you say, yeah, you reach your peak, then as I said, and I would always recommend it, sit down with your whole marketing team, use us, for example, as an agency to support you on this, but really figure out what your strategy is. It's not one thing that one team member or one employee is taking a look at. It's a different strategy right now. So every marketing member, every piece of marketing that you have out there needs to have a storyline, needs to be connected to each other. So finally, my advice would be, go back, check what your company values are, what you are doing out there, check your reviews, and rethink how your marketing is working right now. If you're just putting everything into PPC, great, you're spending a lot of money and you get what you want, yeah, for sure, but you're still not visible out there. You have no reviews, nothing. So make it a holistic part that marketing is out there everywhere. And then the side effect will be you're visible in AI search. You don't need to focus on AI search so dramatically right now. It will be an automatic stuff, a side effect, as I said. Just do marketing right.
Interesting. I think it probably also comes down to just having the right mindset, right? Not seeing this as a threat and trying to work against it, but rather, as you are doing it, for example, you're a great example. I think trying to embrace it, trying to understand it, trying to dig through it, also trying to figure out the stuff that might at first seem complicated and but you are presented with JSON files, etc., and you have to dig through it. But also there, I can help you to better understand this, and I can imagine Jerome also probably maybe use something like Claude or an assistant to create the bookmarklet, and it's great. It's basically the only limitation you have is your imagination now. So I think maybe we wrap this up. So we've already we are already 15 minutes past. David, thanks so much for taking the time. I think this was a really insightful session. We will, of course, share the recording, upload it on YouTube. We will put in your product intent parser in the description. We'll share it on LinkedIn. And to everybody in the audience, thanks so much for joining. I hope you had a great and interesting session, and hope to see you next time. And other than that, all the best. Have a great day.
Have a nice day.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.